products.
Do you think telling people what to eat is quite a personal thing, and that's why they're less receptive to?
Yeah, I have the feeling that that's the case. But if you realize that a meat eater in a Toyota Prius is less environmental friendly than a vegetarian in a Hummer,
yeah.
Then and then I ask people, what do you want to leave at home? What do you want to leave out? Your car, or your steak on your plates? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people say, well, it's not that hard to stop eating meat for just one day. And we have calculated, or the University of Amsterdam calculated, that if all Americans did not eat meat for just one day, it would save 99.6 megatons of greenhouse gas emissions, and this would save 46 million return flights from New York to LA, from LA to New York.
Wow, yeah.
46 million return flights. So, well, that's quite a big step for a better climate.
Herman, is this something that the Green Party in Germany use as part of their campaign? Do you reference it at all?
Well, let me say first that I agree that for far too long the issue of land use and of food has been left out of the debate, and it has too much concentrated on industrial emissions. That has been remedied in recent years, but it's still not really sunk in.
No.
There are several difficulties with it. One is, of course, it's more difficult to assess the emissions that actually come from there. That is being remedied now. But the second is, it is immediately a lifestyle issue. I sometimes say there's two forms of behavior that we have to give up because they cannot be replaced. Everything else can be replaced, but that's flying and meat. Mm-hmm. Because of the physical connotations of this. And so if you talk about traffic, you can talk about electrical cars, so you still have mobility, or can use trains. But with meat, it is immediately an issue of, well, you have to give it up, basically. And that makes it difficult.
But there are a lot of substitutes for that, and and then it's getting more and more of really alternatives for meat and dairy products, and it's a booming business. In Holland, it's a booming business, so you can earn money with it as well. And a lot of people don't realize that it's not only better for the environment and better for the climate, but also we have to realize that in 50 years we have 9 billion people and they have to eat. And if we all become meat eaters, like in China or India, we need a second planet. And we simply don't have that. So we have to really cut down our meat consumption in order to give them their liberty of eating some meat, the Chinese and the Indian.
We need 4 planets, actually.
True.
Even less.
Yeah.
Sometimes the very radical formulation that we have to give it up completely is deterring people. So what I used to say is, well, let's go back to grandma, because in these days, I mean, once a week, there's meat on the table, and that would already
make a
bring
huge difference.
Yes.
Well, a few cities are adopting the sort of meat-free Fridays, or there are a few cities doing that now, aren't there?
Yes, and Paul McCartney, for example, has a worldwide campaign, Meat-Free Monday. And last week he was in Brussels at the European Parliament talking about Meat-Free Monday. And there was one Christian Democrat talking about, well, you know, on Wednesday I eat my meatball, and if I have something left over, then I just eat it on Thursday. She didn't get the message that we really had to cut down our meat consumption daily. And so a lot of people are really emotional if you talk about meat. It's really an emotional argument to eat a lot of meat, just because it's nice, it's tasty. But if you realize that it's climate unfriendly, and it also causes a loss of biodiversity, because all those cattle has to get cattle feed, and they come from vulnerable forests like Brazil. There are all those soy harvests there.
And we also have a very potent PR industry. And I remember in Germany there was one commercial, and it was for a yogurt for kids, and they praised it as nutritional like a small steak, because steak is having this image of providing power, of giving power. That is actually very damaging and makes it difficult to get the message through, and we have to counter that. I fully agree.
I mean, you said the message is really difficult to put across, and the film is brilliant, but how else can you make people realise what impact they're having? Because, I mean, a lot of people just don't realise that, you know, eating steak every now and again is causing...
True. And, well, you have to, the public awareness has to grow, but I think that the government has also a big responsibility in that. If they want to inform people about the energy use of their households, why not tell them also that you can make a climate-friendly choice with the food you put on your plate? And they forget that. And that's why we in Parliament always talk about the methane gases coming from the livestock farming. And 3 years ago, nobody would listen to us in Parliament. But 3 years later, now, at this moment, our Minister of Environment stated that every official dinner that she will have in the future will be vegetarian. And they have also have a budget for innovation from plant, from animal protein conversion to plant conversion. It's 6 million euros now. It's a start. But 3 years ago they said, well, you're just a fanatic vegetarian animal rights activist. And now it's becoming more and more common.
Yeah. So going back to the talks today, what do you think Germany's going to bring to the talks in the next 24 hours?
Well, our Chancellor has given a speech already, and she has delivered what was expected of her. She has confirmed the German target of 40%. She has called for an aggregate reduction of 25% for all industrialized countries, and she has confirmed that a lot of money will be needed. 100 billion euros. That's the figure that is most usually cited. 100 billion euros in 2020 per year that we need. But as I said before, the kind of deal that we are going to get will involve these numbers. I'm sure it's already pointing towards it. But if you count in the loopholes, then you add all this up, you come to mostly 10%, maybe even less, and that would go backwards from Kyoto. So because we had an agreement, an aggregate agreement of 5% reductions in from 1990 already, and that is the real danger. But the issue has become so complex, I mean, in the meanwhile, that an ordinary journalist or people are following this, they just cannot grab it. That's why we need, for example, a civil society, because they do have specialists now. They have computers that make their calculations to what does it add up. And so that's a kind of, they're providing a kind of a watchdog function.
I mean, is that why we don't really know what's going on, because the civil society aren't inside anymore and we're losing grip, that sort of uptake?
Well, it's becoming very boring at the Bella Center, isn't it? I mean, it's empty and there's only people clad in suits. Well, I am at the moment. But, I really miss the variety and the colours.
With beautiful words and statements, but no real action.
No. Thank you very, very much for joining us. That is all we've got time for, unfortunately. Again, thank you to our guests. We'll be back again tomorrow to give you an update on the last 24 hours of the summit. Hopefully I can bring you some good news with some progress towards a deal. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.